Hi everyone, it's Holly and Marie King, and we are back with the Emblem Knights final draft. Chapter 6, the Senior Advisor. Alright, so let's get started. Chapter 6, Senior Advisor. I hear you hurt yourself again, Ray, John said as Daisuke cooked him a late dinner. Yuri had followed the three of them and walked over to the front door and let John in and then sat down at the table. Apparently I can't read. Ray, wish my camera would focus. See if I do that. Well, I guess you'll just have to deal with my blurry face, because obviously my camera wants to be a butt. Why is it so unfocused? Maybe if I sit back and move forward. Ooh, it worked. Go me. Okay. Sorry. Ray glared at him from across the table. Why are you really here, John? He growled at his friend. Oops. Okay. Mr. Slave Master has told me that he wants to meet the two new emblem bearers, and that he wants the six of us to train them, John informed his friend. Ray stood from the table. Absolutely not. No, Ray said. There is no way. Think about it, Ray, John said to his friend, trying to stop him from walking away. It's either we train them, or he comes here and takes them from us. Ray looked at Daisuke, who was putting John's food on the table. Daisuke shook his head, trying not to help with the answering for what they had to do. These are the times when being the leader is difficult, Ray sighed, sitting back down at the table in defeat. Why not just train them? John asked his leader. Once we do that, what's to stop him from taking them? Daisuke asked as he sat down next to his friend. Then he can just do what he did to us. What did he do? Yuri asked, suddenly nervous for her and her little brother. Don't we get a say in what we do? It's not something anyone gets a say in, Ray growled. Yuri could hear wood creaking. Ray was gripping the table so hard it began to splinter. Whatever that man wants, he gets to do. No questions asked. It doesn't matter what we do. John made eye contact with Ray. Unless, he said, like he just had a brilliant idea. Unless what? Yuri asked, sitting on the edge of her seat, hoping for good news. Unless we defeat the ringleader of the catastrophe we faced 2 years ago, John answered her, then looking at his two friends, seeing what their reaction would be. Ray stood from the table and put his hands in his hair. No, I won't do it. I can't do it, he shouted, pacing. There has to be some other way, Daisuke said to John. He looked at his leader in concern. I'm sorry, but that's it, John said to them. Ray, think about it this way. It's either Jack or them. No way, Ray said to John. Jack was my best friend. I'm not choosing, he said before he walked out the front door, slamming it. The door split down the middle, but stayed on its hinges. Oops. Look, I know how important Jack is to Ray, but we can't take any chances, John said to Daisuke. You remember what they did with girls? Yuri wouldn't last with that guy taking them away. You can't, Yuri shouted. Just because he is dangerous doesn't mean you can kill her. She blushed sheepishly when she realized what she had just said. John and Daisuke exchanged looks and then looked back at her. Her? Daisuke asked. Yuri quickly covered her mouth and ran out the door, not wanting to share more than she had. Daisuke stood from the table. I should go talk to her, he said, moving to leave. No. John objected. We should let Ray and her talk. It sounds like they will help each other out. Daisuke sighed. Yeah, you're probably right. Let's go get some rest so we can talk more about this in the morning. Yuri ran into Ray on her way out the door and found him looking at the ground, fighting back his emotions. You shouldn't be out here with your injuries, she said to him. He looked up at her in irritation. Whatever. He looked away, not wanting to talk anymore. Yuri sat down next to him, letting the cool air ease her burning cheeks. I hate all this stuff, she said with a sigh. It brings back awful memories. Forgive me if I don't sympathize. You understand very little, Ray challenged. I understand some things, Yuri offered him. Ray snorted. Girlie, when it comes to experience in difficult situations, I'm pretty sure I could beat you there, he said bitterly. I know what it's like to lose people important to you, Yuri said. You told me of your family. Pass, Ray said in a bored tone. Try having to control your emotions so you don't hurt anyone around you. If I lose any self-control, I could kill someone without a thought. Yuki, Yuri ignored him. Who? Ray looked over at him. My twin sister. She met his eyes. Your friend's ability, is it death by chance? Why would you possibly know that? Ray asked. Yuri shrugged. I was only guessing because people tend to mistrust people with that ability, more so than anyone else. She answered. She continued before Ray could say more. My sister had the ability of death. It was how I first found out about the emblems. What? Ray stood from where he was sitting. There's no way that could be possible. Only one person can have that ability. I'm sorry, but it's true, Yuri said back to him. You should know as well as I do that when the person who gets the emblem experiences their first death, they receive their emblem. Well, Ray said, sitting back down, isn't that interesting? I don't care what happens to me, but please don't let them take my brother, Yuri begged him. Ray sighed. I can't make any promises, he said to her. Can we just tell him that we were going to train and take Jack out? Yuri asked Ray. He opened his mouth to protest, but she interrupted him before he could say anything. We don't have to actually plan on attacking Jack. Only make him think we're going to. That sounds like a pretty decent plan, Ray agreed with her. It doesn't make things simple for the moment. Yuri smiled at him. Thank you, she said, getting up. She offered her hand to help Ray to his feet. Come on, you need your rest, and it's pretty late. All right, he said with a sigh as he took her hand. The next morning, Joey was learning a new song with his flute as John taught it to him. Look what I learned today, Yuri, he cried as he danced around her. He stopped long enough to put his flute up to his lips and start to play. As he played, a green vine started to slither up to the top of the ceiling. Yuri smiled and rubbed the top of her little brother's head. That's amazing, she said to her brother. She then looked over at John. Have you seen Ray? She asked him. He's out by the big tree. You can't miss it, John answered her. Yuri smiled and approached John, putting her face next to his ear. Please don't teach him the Song of Death, she murmured to him. Okay? John nodded his head and frowned. I can't guarantee that I won't. He'll eventually learn it on his own, but I will delay it at the very least. Thank you, she said as she walked out the door. She knew exactly where to go because it was where she had found him the night before, and it was the tree that she herself sat by when she needed to think. Yuri sat next to him without a word. She sat there in silence, allowing him to decide when he wanted to talk. The birds chirped happily around them. I have some questions, he finally said to her. Yuri nodded. I figured you would. When did your sister receive her emblem? Ray asked her. She received it when the two of us were about 8. Joey didn't even meet her, Yuri answered him, bringing her knees up to her chest. I take it there were some things that were said, Ray said to her. Yuri nodded. They said that she couldn't be trusted, she answered him. They already had issues with the emblem of death. So, they told an 8-year-old girl that if she wasn't disposed of, she would kill all her friends and family. My parents only said their goodbyes as if she wasn't going to go very far. It was the worst part of it. Did that have to do with you fighting with your dad? Ray asked her. Yuri frowned, but she nodded to his question. He didn't want me to practice fighting because he was afraid I would end up like my sister. I'm just going to leave, was what I said to him. His reaction? I'll leave to your imagination, she said to him. I'm glad you came along. It has made this emblem thing easier than it could have been. Yeah, well, I only did what I felt was right, he said to her with a grim look on his face. I'm glad that you're here to help Joey and me. She smiled at him and then frowned once again. There will be a way we can save your friend. I don't want any more innocent blood spilled just because of their ability. Ray looked up with wide eyes. We need to go to the house, he said to Yuri as he stood from the ground. What? Who is it? What's going on? Yuri asked Ray. Don't worry about it right now. We have to go inside, he said, taking Yuri by the wrist and leading her to the house. Ray? Daisuke was the first to see them when he walked through the door. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Ray was as white as a sheet, and his hands were cold and clammy. He's here, Ray whispered. Grandfather, put on some tea, Daisuke ordered the grandfather, and then turned to John. Do not let him out of your sight, he was referring to Joey, who was still training with John. The man nodded and led the boy to the kitchen table by his shoulder and sat down next to him. Yuri, go sit next to your brother, and Ray, just relax. We will be fine. The old man with a cane walked through the door. In appearance, he looked weak and frail, but he left off a strong vibe that made Yuri feel sick to her stomach. Looks as though you are as prepared as ever, Daisuke, the man said to Daisuke. I hope things are going well. Joey grabbed Yuri's hand and squeezed it under the table. I'm scared of him, he whispered to his sister. She squeezed his hand back in reassurance. Don't worry, everything will be all right, she whispered back to him with a smile on her face. So far, they are quite unimpressive, the senior advisor said, looking down his nose at them. He had a piece of paper in his hand, which he read now. Whew. The girl is 16 of age. What a wasteful thing, he murmured. Ray was standing behind Yuri. He held her shoulders lightly, but he was shaking uncontrollably. The boy is 8. This is good. Not ideal, but good. He then took his cane and pointed it directly at Yuri's heart. Shall I rid you of this wasteful thing? Yuri was jerked back, having her hand ripped from Joey's hand, and Daisuke was laying on the table with Ray standing in front of her, while John covered Joey's eyes with his hands. It's no problem, sir, Daisuke said, moving to sit up on the table, trying to recover from his leap onto the table. She already is quite good with a sword, and so it shouldn't be too difficult to train her still. I see, the senior advisor said. The men all held their breath. As long as the boy is trained, I could care less what happens here. The men all let their breath out in relief. Though, I do require something from you all. Ray gritted his teeth in frustration, knowing what was to happen next. If you wish to keep her alive, you must kill Jack and get him out of my way. But, Yuri protested, but Ray covered her mouth with his hand. Very well, Ray answered the man. The senior advisor smiled at him cruelly. Now that that's all settled, let us sit and drink some tea, he said down at the table, looking directly at Daisuke. Daisuke? Yes, sir, Daisuke said from his position on the table. Tables are meant for eating on, not sitting on, the senior advisor said to him. Yes, sir. Daisuke slid off the table and sat at the head of the table. Ray pulled up a chair in between Yuri and Daisuke so that he could stay close to her. Yuri could feel the tension in the room. It was very unnerving. Now, is it just the three of you? The senior advisor asked as John left to go get the tea. Yes, sir, Ray said stiffly. But then you already know that. Daisuke kicked Ray under the table. Ray, don't, he warned his leader. Now, no need to get yourself all riled up, Ray, the senior advisor said, putting his tea to his mouth. But then it dropped to the plate. It had sat on with a clink and slosh of the liquid still within. While the cane from the senior advisor jabbed itself at Ray, he dodged just in time to avoid contact. There is no need for this behavior. If it continues, you will be punished, the senior advisor warned with a flint in his eye. Ray's temper rose, but he was satisfied with staring a hole into the table. He was just recently injured, sir, so he's not feeling his best, Daisuke said to the senior advisor, trying to get the old man's attention. Ah, someone get the better of you, the senior advisor asked Ray with a mocking smile on his face. That seems unfortunate for you. It's fine, Ray murmured, not looking up from the table. Sir, with all due respect, it's time we started on getting some training done, John said bravely. Very well, the senior advisor said, standing from his seat with ease. Now, I will know if Jack is not defeated. He was gone not long after saying those words. The three men all seemed to deflate as soon as he walked out the door. That was too close for comfort, John said, wiping sweat out of his eyes. Is everything all right? Yuri asked him. We always hated talking with him, Daisuke said, leaning back in his chair with relief. I thought Ray was the leader, though. Is that not true? Yuri asked him. Why do you say that? John asked. Ray still hadn't looked up yet. Well, because Daisuke did most of the talking, Yuri said hesitantly. That's because Ray is petrified of the senior advisor, Daisuke answered her, looking over at his friend in concern. He did all sorts of unspeakable things to the strong and fast healers, John said, looking grim. Which is why we need to start training, Ray said, suddenly standing up from his seat without another word. Yay, we did it! We read chapter 6. I can't wait till the beginning of the book's over, because it gets better when it gets more towards the middle. Oh, goodness knows, my yawns today are awful. But yeah, anyway, if you guys are interested in this book, I will leave in the description below where you can buy it. If you're interested, if not, I will continue reading it anyway, because I am enjoying reading my books for you guys. But yeah, so So next will be Chapter 7, Training for Life. And I think we get one more Emblem night. And then, because Roy joins next, and then we'll meet Murphy. And we finally get to get out of there after we get Alex. Yes, I'm ruining names and when they're in their arrival times. I can't remember if Roy has to join first. Murphy joins after Roy. So Murphy's the one that tells Yuri about Alex. Anyway, hopefully I will see you guys next time. Bye!